Hey guys, I'm Saurav, and in this video let's talk about 7 myths about photography. Now, photography is a huge art form. Everyone has cameras, everyone has lenses right now, but there are still certain myths in your mind which, if not cleared, you can still have some doubts in photography and it won't help you to develop as a photographer. So in this video, we will clear every one of them. So without wasting any time, let's get started. The first myth is that more images will give you better images. Now, most of the times when you see a very beautiful subject or very beautiful bird or a beautiful landscape, you are so overwhelmed and you're such excited that you take images continuously, hoping that out of tons of images, you will get one master image. But that is kind of wrong, okay? Because when you're talking about photography, composition, angle, lighting matters a lot. So when you are in a situation where you get a very beautiful image or a very beautiful subject to shoot with, be calm, be relaxed, focus on your settings, focus on the composition, focus on the lighting. Because if you take maybe a underexposed or overexposed image which is not able to fix in the post, you will later regret that you had such a good subject, but just because you were too much excited, you didn't get the image. So make sure you just capture few images. Maybe you are in a situation where you can capture 100 images and you will get 5 or 6 okayish images. Rather than that, try to capture 10 good images, be relaxed, and from that you will still get 1 or 2 images which you will really like. So make sure that you capture less images, but at the same time you capture better images. So less images won't only save the memory, but also will kind of give a better chance to capture better images. The second myth is that professionals only use manual mode. Now in my videos, I have always talked about manual mode and why manual mode is so great, as it gives much flexibility than any other mode, why I use it most of the times. But the truth is, every time I do not use manual mode, every time all the professionals do not use manual mode. So there are different camera modes. There is a separate video where I talk about other camera modes. Even though the manual mode provides more flexibility, I have seen many professional photographers using aperture priority. So if you want to shoot at a constant aperture and if you have a fixed ISO, then you don't have to waste time in adjusting the shutter speed. Rather than that, you can spend that particular time in composition and create better images. So it's not that always in manual mode you're going to get better images. You have to be creative. Once you know what the modes are capable of, then you can decide according to the situations what you can use. So even though manual mode provides you the most flexibility, make sure that you're not always stuck with manual mode. There are other modes too which can give you better images. The next myth is that better cameras will give you better images, and this is one of the most famous and oldest myth that everyone has. Now, technically, if you have the same image, same composition, and you're shooting at the same time of the day, maybe you will get a better image quality from the more expensive and a better camera. But that's not the only thing that matters. If you are a good photographer, no matter what camera you're using, even though you're using a mobile phone, you will be able to create better images. So photography is a mixture of technicality and aesthetic part. So the aesthetic part, meaning the composition, the lighting, the ability to tell stories with your images, cannot be improved with a better camera. It is you who is going to take much more efforts to create better images. So even though you have the best camera in the market, which your money can offer, but you are not taking efforts, the images are not going to be good. But if you are taking efforts and if you are going to be better day by day, doesn't matter what camera you are using, you will be able to create good images. So make sure, even if you don't have the best camera, which maybe your role model is using, don't be demotivated, because that doesn't matter as much as the photographer behind the camera matters. The next myth is that full frame cameras are better than crop sensor cameras. Now, if you don't know what full frame and crop sensor are, they are basically very similar cameras, but the full frame camera has a slightly larger sensor than the crop sensor cameras. So if you have a larger sensor, you basically get better image quality because you have much more dynamic range, you have a better low light performance, better colors, better sharpness. But the thing is, sometimes full frame cameras might not be the best option. Like if you're shooting wildlife images, or if you're into sports photography, or if you're in a situation where you want more zoom, crop sensor cameras are going to give you much more zoom than the full frame cameras because it has a 1.5 times crop value. So for example, if you have a 200mm lens and if you're shooting with a full frame camera, you're going to shoot at exactly 200mm because it is using the full frame. But now if you have the same lens but you have a crop sensor camera, because of the 1.5 crop factor, you're actually getting 200 times 1.5, that is 300mm. So even though you're using the same lens, you're getting much more zoom range. So it's not that full frame cameras are better than crop sensor cameras each and every time. It actually depends on the situation and what do you exactly want from the camera. The next myth is that the cameras are more important than the lenses. Now, the thing is, cameras of course matter in photography because the image sensor that is present in the camera is the most important thing when it comes to making images. But at the same time, if you have a very good camera which is attached to not a very good lens, then you won't get the best image quality that your camera can offer. So even though you have a better camera but it is paired with not a very good lens, you won't get the best image quality. As I said again, the camera matters, but what matters equally or even more are the lenses that you're using. For example, if you want better blur, better image quality, better colors, the best lenses are going to give you better results. So make sure that if you want to upgrade, don't spend much on buying a new camera. If you already have a good camera, make sure that you are investing in the lenses. Investing in the lenses can be much more valuable than investing in a better camera, okay? So make sure that if you don't have enough lenses, make sure you upgrade lenses first, and then if you want to upgrade, then maybe you upgrade your camera. The next myth is that the lowest aperture will give you the sharpest images. Now, when you want to capture some landscapes or when you want to capture some images where you want the depth of field to be maximum, the idea is that if you want more depth of field, basically you use a lower aperture, something about f8, f10 or f11. But the problem starts when you actually use a lower aperture comparative to the f10 or f11. So every lens has a sweet spot, something from f5.6 to f10. If you actually decrease the aperture, something about f16, f22 or f35, you will feel that you will get better depth of field. Technically you will, but the problem is you might not require much more depth of field than f10 or f11 can produce. The problem with f16, f22 or f35 is that the image quality starts getting reduced. So if you compare images shot at f10, f16, f22, you will see as we decrease the aperture, the sharpness is actually getting reduced. So make sure if you are happy with the result that f10 or f11 or f8 is giving, don't decrease the aperture to f22. Technically it will give you a more depth of field, but you might not require the depth of field and you're actually losing the sharpness that your cameras and lenses can offer. The last but not the least is more megapixels means better camera, means better images. Now we think that more megapixels means a better camera, but that is extremely wrong. Now even mobile phones have comparable megapixels as DSLRs. But that doesn't mean they can produce the same quality as the DSLRs can. The DSLRs or the other cameras have larger sensor than the mobile phones, and those are very important because megapixels are only giving you resolution. Megapixels doesn't mean better image quality. More megapixels doesn't mean you will get better colors, better dynamic range. Rather, if you have much more megapixels, it is actually likely that you will get much more noise in higher ISO. So always make sure that don't get driven by much more megapixels, okay? Cameras that have higher megapixels should have a better sensor for better image quality. So make sure that you're not driven by more megapixels and better cameras, but actually you're focusing in becoming a better photographer and taking better images. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, press the like button. If you loved it, press the subscribe button. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.